Hey guys, Nike here. I wanted to go over the build I use in sPvP and WvW on my warrior to show you what I do when I play that. I used to play Mesmer primarily in sPvP and tPvP, but I've started playing warrior a lot more after the recent buffs. I think especially this build is super strong and is definitely viable. I pretty much stomp most hot joins that I do. And that's not saying much, obviously, because I'm a pretty experienced player. I should be able to stomp most hot joins, but I find this build to be overpowered. I feel overpowered when I play it, and I think you'll find out the same. So let's go over gear real quick. We're going full rabid, precision, toughness, condition damage. This is basically everything we want. Everything in the build keys off critting, it keys off tanking damage, and it keys off having massive condition damage. Statistically, base 44% chance to crit. Armor's 3400, which is super tanky. And condition damage is 1193, which is also super tanky. And condition duration, 40%. Can't really beat that. As far as runes go, we use Rune of Melandru. Makes us even super tougher. And makes conditions against us fall off really fast. So basically, the idea here is that conditions don't do anything to us and direct damage does very little to us, which means that we are super tanky and you want survivability in a condition damage build, because in a condition damage build, the key is to beat your opponent in the war of attrition. So you want to be tankier than him, and you want your conditions to tick more than his. Weapons, we go sword, longbow. Superior Sigil of Doom. After you swap to this weapon in combat, 5 seconds of poison. This is super awesome. I really encourage you to understand how good it is to inflict poison in a condition damage build. Basically, in a condition damage build, poison reduces their healing by 33%. And since you have to tick through every hit point on their character, you're basically, by inflicting perma poison on someone, you're making sure that their health pool is reduced by 33% in effect. So what this does is it drastically, in addition to the damage it does, it drastically decreases the lifespan of your opponent, and that's what you want. The other sword uses Sigil of Agony for 10% boon duration, or 10% bleed duration. And then the longbow also uses Superior Sigil of Doom. This is a fast hands build, so we're going to be swapping on cooldown. And the poison you inflict is just massive in terms of actually finishing your opponent off. So quickly we'll go into the traits. We're doing 20, 0, 20, 20, 10, 20. Precise strikes, one of the keys of the build, 33% chance to cause bleeding on critical hit. We have a very high crit chance, especially when we have Fury, and that is going to ensure that we are stacking a lot of bleeds. Deep cuts, bleeds last 50% longer. I think this is a no-brainer. Burst skills have 10% critical chance, also a no-brainer one. We have a build with Flurry. And Furious Speed, gain 10 seconds of swiftness on critical hits. These effects can only occur once every 15 seconds. Some people prefer, where is it? Opportunist. 10 seconds of free when you immobilize a target. I vastly prefer the mobility that you get with Furious Speed. Basically, with Furious Speed and your Signet of Rage, you have perma swiftness, and you decide when and where you fight and how you fight. And when you're a close combat character like a warrior, and your range attacks are of limited use and not as good as your opponent's range attacks, you need to determine when and where you fight. And this is especially true in World v World. Moving on to defense, thick skin, extra armor when health is above 90%. Always good. We just want to be super tanky. This contributes to that. It's a good trait. Dogged March, snares fall off much faster, and you gain regeneration for 3 seconds. The regeneration helps a lot. The snares falling off faster when combined with our Melandru runes are going to just be super key in allowing us to be a close combat oriented build. General health, regenerating health based on adrenaline level is super amazing. Between that and the healing signet, we have and the regeneration from Dogged March, we have pretty respectable amount of regeneration, which means that when we're fighting against an enemy who has condition damage, we can basically ignore the first 5 or 6 stacks of bleeds and poison that he puts on us because we're regenerating so much. Which means that while our first stacks are doing damage to him, his isn't really hurting us too badly. So it just allows us to win those wars of attrition that condition damage builds get into. And Cleansing Ire, gain adrenaline when hit, and remove a condition for every bar of adrenaline spent. This is going to allow us in a fight to use our burst skills on recharge, and when we do use them, it'll allow us to cleanse, which means that in a prolonged fight against another condition damage build, we're consistently going to inflict more conditions, and we're going to consistently have fewer. This is basically geared around winning the mirror match. In tactics, we have Leg Specialist, which is what makes us also able to get in close combat. We have a lot of snares in this build. Leg Specialist is going to combo very well with the sword auto attack. That will allow us to consistently cripple and immobilize our targets. The longbow also has an immobilize, so there's a lot of immobilizes flying around in this build, and Leg Specialist kicks in, and it's very noticeable, and it's really good. In Discipline, 5 strikes of adrenaline on weapon swap. Super good. We're weapon swapping all the time thanks to our 15-point trait Fast Hands, and when combined with Cleansing Ire, our adrenaline just fills up so fast even though we're using it so fast. You really can't go wrong with it. These combo so well together. Signet Mastery, as you can probably see from my bar, this is a Signet build, and we take huge advantage of Signet Mastery. And lastly, Mobile Strikes, Break Immobilize. In combination with Savage Leap, this is one of the best traits. It allows you to get into and out of damage super well. It allows you to win fights against rangers who normally kind of own warriors. And it combos very well with Leg Specialist. A lot of rangers are in the habit of picking on warriors 1v1. They will cripple you from afar, immobilize you, and just ping you down with short bow. What this basically does is allows you to break through their immobilize, get in their face. It'll immobilize them, allow you to burst onto them, which will immobilize them further. Then you throw your impale onto them, and it's all she wrote because you now have no conditions. They are loaded up with conditions, and their cooldowns are blown. So the advantage is all yours. Basically, how the build goes for utilities, we have Healing Signet, which I've already talked about. Grants you regeneration. I almost never activate it because the build's natural regeneration is just so good. Berserker Stance, again, gains us adrenaline, which is really inconsequential, but what we take it for is 8 seconds of basically being immune to a condition. Like I said, a lot of this build is, especially when you're fighting against another condition damage player, it's about winning the war of attrition. All of our traits and our rune selection make conditions fall off really fast. This makes conditions fall off really fast. And we regenerate so much that we can ignore a lot of their conditions. Essentially, we're gearing ourselves to out-condition other condition damage builds. Then we have Doliac Signet, reduces incoming damage and gives you stability. Reducing incoming damage in conjunction with our huge armor is going to make it so that we're super tanky, so that when a full Berserker Greatsword Warrior does his mace stun and 100 blades us, we don't take a great deal of damage, and we can flurry back on him, and he will basically eat the type of damage that he was hoping to inflict on us. Also, Everyone knows this. It goes without saying, I hope, that stability is amazing in PvP for stomping people. I pretty much only use the stability to stomp people. That's when I activate the signet. You can't... Getting your stomp off in a 1v1, or especially when it's a 1v2, if you can stomp one of their players very quickly with the stability and make it a 1v1 fight, your odds of winning are great. And if you can win 1v2s, you're going to help your team win a great deal. Again, Signet of Stamina, another great Signet utility. The extra endurance regeneration is good since we don't have Vigor in the build. And extra dodges always help in PvP. Additionally, it's a cure-all. If you just get absolutely stacked with conditions to the point where your regeneration doesn't even help and you can't use a burst skill for whatever reason, this is just your panic button against another condition damage build. And then the elite will be Signet of Rage. Might makes your conditions hit harder. This build gives you perma swiftness. And the Fury is never a bad thing, especially in conjunction with precise strikes. For World v World, I wanted to show the food that I use. It is the Koi Cakes, plus 40% condition duration and plus 70 condition damage. It is very strong, and it allows the build... It's a massive DPS boost for this build. In World v World, this build hits insanely hard because of all the boosts you can do to your condition damage, plus Ascended gear. It's just really a super dirt cheap food, and you can get them everywhere off the trading post for nothing, and it's just a humongous boost. You can also use the Artificer Tonic that converts toughness and vitality to condition damage or something like that. I don't bother with them because they're kind of expensive, but they additionally, they're just really good. So the playstyle is you're going to generally try to stack conditions from afar as you work your way into the fight. Dual Shot's going to hit, hopefully crit twice, hopefully inflict bleeding, some stacks of bleeding. Fan of Fire is going to inflict burning. Smoldering Arrow, you're going to use this primarily to help stomp warriors and other people who can interrupt you with their blindness or with their down skills to prevent you from stomping them. The blindness will make sure that you can get your stomp off. And then Pin Down is the best skill on the bar. Massive amount of bleeding, a long immobilize, and you can do it from 1,000 range, which is ridiculously good. Generally, if my Pin Down lands on a target, they're in huge trouble because it means that they're probably going to also eat the Savage Leap, which means that they're probably also going to eat the Flurry. And if I can get those 3 skills off, it's just ridiculously hard for someone to live through that unless they pop a bunch of cooldowns. And if they do that, I'm at a pretty big advantage. The burst skill is amazing. It's basically an area denial skill. Anyone who fights you 1v1 in your own fire field is a fool. They will lose, and you should be able to trump them 1v1. Even when the odds are, anytime the odds are even, this is just such a big force multiplier. If you're fighting in World v World 3v3, 3v4, anything like that, Combustive Shot will really help even the odds. Anyone who stands in it's pretty foolish. And in combination with Arcing Arrow, you can give your whole team a couple stacks of might, which is really good when you're roaming and really good in a condition damage build. Flurry, it's just a simple burst skill. It's the eviscerate of condition damage builds. The bleeds last a while. The immobilize lasts a while. Your opponent is just going to be in a world of hurt if you get that off. Impale will also put them in a world of hurt. Just more conditions. They're going to have poison, burning, bleeding. It's just and torment. It's just not going to be a happy camper for them if they can't get rid of the stacks of conditions. Riposte, it will block the entire time it's channeling. Does a pretty ridiculous amount of blocks, gets you in and out of a fight pretty well, especially in combination with Savage Leap as an escape, which I use quite a bit. Final Thrust, this is not a direct damage build, but it has a pretty high amount of crit damage and a pretty high chance to crit. If I'm fighting an opponent and it's close and I'm at like 3,000 health and he's at like 3,000 health, I'm going to Final Thrust just to finish him. It'll crit for like 2,500. It does enough direct damage to justify using it, so I would highly recommend using Final Thrust to finish an opponent. Obviously, this is not a direct damage build, and it's not going to do a ton of damage, but a couple thousand damage is usually enough to push someone over the line when you have a bunch of conditions on them. I hope this guide was helpful and gives you some ideas for running around World v World and playing a warrior in sPvP and actually dominating in sPvP on a warrior. So the remainder of the video is going to be just some random gameplay footage I did in a hot join. I didn't edit it to make me look good. It's just random gameplay footage. You can see the build in action and get a feel for how it plays in the chaos of sPvP. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments, and thanks for watching.